Okay, guys. Nice to see you all again this week. How's everybody doing?
Doing well.
How are you?
Yeah, getting ready for finals, right?
Yes.
It's coming up. How's everybody's anxiety and stress levels? Feeling all right?
Finals are not my favorite, so a little high.
Sure. Okay.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
I haven't been sleeping very well, but
Okay. Matt, how about you? Been all right?
About the same.
Okay.
Haven't been sleeping real well.
Okay. Well, this week I wanted to sort of talk about our inner thoughts, like the things we tell ourselves and affirmations, meaning they can be negative or positive. And I'm just wondering, do you guys have any, so I can give you an example of a negative affirmation would be, everyone else is so much more confident than I am. I'm so insecure. What's an example of a negative? Just something that you find yourself
I'm dumb.
Yeah.
I'm dumb. Okay. Anybody else?
Nobody likes me.
Nobody likes me. Anything?
I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't study hard enough, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, so going back to the example I gave, everybody else is so confident, I'm so insecure. What do you think is sort of the opposite of that? Like, what's a way we can take the negative and turn it into a positive?
I'm just as good, or I'm just as smart as she is.
Okay.
As she is.
Wow. I think that's true.
Yeah, so sort of thinking about things that you can be confident about, things you excel at. When I was in high school, I was really good at English, not so good at math, but I did really well in English. So that was something that, when I thought about that, instead of focusing on the negative in terms of schoolwork, that was something that kind of helped me a little bit. Anything else? I feel dumb. What's a way to... Can you think of a way to make that?
Well, I mean, that's an exaggeration.
Sure.
I'm not really dumb. I could be smarter if I tried harder.
Okay.
I could be smarter.
Yeah. So if you applied yourself a little bit more
Right.
and took a little bit more interest in schoolwork. Sure. Okay. So yeah, one thing, when you guys leave here, one thing I want you to think about and maybe try to pay attention to is think of, like, when you find yourself saying something to yourself, like a negative affirmation. I want you guys to sort of take a step back from that. Instead of focusing on just this one aspect, I want you guys to start thinking about the big picture. High school is temporary, and high school has its own anxieties and stresses for sure. But one thing I want you guys to begin to think about and prepare yourselves for is the rest of your lives, basically looking at the big picture. So that's something else I wanted to when we have these moments of feeling extreme anxiety and kind of focusing on one thing, because that's something I've found myself doing, is when I feel anxious about it, I can't not focus on this one aspect that's making me feel anxious. So one thing that I try to do that helps me sort of get out of that is to take a step back and think about, well, what in the situation, what are the things that I can control? What are the things I can't control? So, like, if we're talking about, these negative affirmations, like you mentioned, Cindy, like, I feel dumb. Well, one thing you can control is applying yourself more in schoolwork. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sort of see the connection there?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So can you guys think of another example, maybe? Matt, can you think of an example?
Of an affirmation?
Or just a situation where you are really focused on one thing and how you can sort of, what are the things you can control and what you can't control, and how you can sort of take a step back from that.
Well, I could focus on how hard I study, right? And answering the questions on like the study guides and stuff our teachers give us,
Mm-hmm.
and working on those.
Okay. Margie, do you have anything?
I'm trying to think about like for mine, just
Mm-hmm.
so like I could like I think I'm cool, so maybe like that's okay enough, and like what other people think matters, but maybe doesn't matter as much all the time.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Instead, being okay with yourself and, you are cool. So,
Okay.
just, everybody's thinking about their own stuff all the time, and
Well, like who decides who's cool
Well, yeah.
and how smart is smart? Yeah.
it's a very subjective, it's everybody's different. We're all unique and we all have different things to bring to the table, and we all excel at different things and don't excel at other things, and that's okay. It's just kind of part of being human, right?
So like if you're like I suck at math, then just say like I'm really good at science.
Well, yes.
Okay.
So if that's like just your kind of general negative affirmation, yeah, you do well at science, and there is math in science.
Yeah.
So maybe looking at it from the perspective of from the scientific side, like chemistry, you're doing a lot of formulas, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And so, but it still has that science aspect. So trying to be better
Mhm.
at things through the lens of things you're already good at. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I guess my main point is something that can really help with anxiety and stress is to shift your focus. Think about, what's, like I said, what are the things you can control, things you can't control. And, that's just kind of, and try to train yourself, the changing your thought processes and your going from the negative to the positive affirmations. It doesn't happen overnight, but when you become aware of it,
Mm-hmm.
and that awareness of like, oh, I keep having this one recurring thought, maybe look at that and examine it, and why do I have this feeling, and how can I change it to something positive, sort of thing. So one thing I want to leave you guys with is this is kind of a famous quote. It's called the Serenity Prayer. And the quote is, I have the serenity to accept the things I can't change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So I want you guys to, that's just kind of it applies in so many different situations, and it's just something to, it's just a good quote to think about and, apply to your lives. Does anybody have any?
We could write that down and put it like on something that we carry with us.
Yeah, you definitely could keep it in. My notebook in high school, my binder, I used to, it has like the plastic where you can stick stuff in.
Oh yeah.
I used to put all kinds of stuff in there, so you could write it down, put it in your, I can give you guys copies of this too, and kind of keep it with you in your backpack or whatever, or somewhere you're gonna see it. I used to also
locker.
In your locker, yeah,
Mhm.
exactly, or at home. Like I used to write stuff on my bathroom mirror sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's
See
cool.
it, yeah.
What does serenity mean?
Serenity, so like serene. So it's sort of the opposite of anxious, right? So it's
Like calm.
yeah, like you have the ability, you can think rationally, calmly, yeah, and then the courage to change things I can. So change is always hard. Nobody likes change, but that goes hand in hand with like what can I control, what's out of my control,
Mm-hmm.
and then being brave enough to change the things you can control. So like studying harder, applying yourself more, maybe working harder. If you guys are all sports, so trying harder in that regard, or trying harder to think more positively about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anybody have any other thoughts? Do you guys like this quote? Do you think it's?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
I can work with that.
All right. Well, I hope you guys, you know, can take a few things from these couple of sessions we've had together, and I hope it helps you guys, especially in this busy time before finals. And yeah, I'm always available if you guys need me. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Miss
Thank
Law.
you so much.
Thank you.